Eleanor, we are ready. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Karen Morgan. I'm an executive council member with AARP in Maryland, and this is Protect Week, when we shine a spotlight on all things related to the prevention of elder financial exploitation and abuse. And this is one of a series of interviews that we're doing during Protect Week to highlight different facets of this horrible crime. So today we are focusing on legislation. There's actually good news that we can report to Marylanders today, thanks to the efforts of Senator Ben Cramer and Delegate Vaughn Stewart. So let me just tell you a little bit about our guest today. Senator Cramer has long been an advocate for consumer protection, especially for consumer protection directed at people 50 and older and their families. He's been the sponsor of a number of bills that relate to keeping finances safe for people who are older as well as their families. He is a true son of Maryland. He was born and raised here in Maryland and represents District 19 in Montgomery County. He's a small business owner. He's married with 3 grown children. And we are so happy to have you here, Senator Cramer. And he's been in the legislature since 2007 and in the Senate since 2019. And I believe you're Senate Majority Whip in the Senate, Senator Cramer?
No, I think I may be one of the assistants.
Oh, okay. Well, I just gave you a promotion. and Delegate Vaughn Stewart, while not a true son of Maryland, is a son of the South. He also represents District 19 in Montgomery County and is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania and the New York University School of Law. He was first elected to the legislature in 2018. And he not only serves on the Environment and Transportation Committee, but has also been in front of legislation related to protection of people from financial exploitation and just consumer protection legislation in general. And he is Chief Deputy Majority Whip and has been that of the House of Delegates since 2023. And he lives in Rockville, Maryland with his wife and 2 sons. So welcome to both of you. We are so happy to have you both here.
Thank you. Great to be here. And thanks for having us, Karen.
Indeed. Thank you.
Yeah. So let me just set the stage here. Maryland has gift card legislation, Senate Bill 760, which ended up becoming enacted, although there was also the House bill. There was a House version of the same legislation. But in any event, we now have a law, Chapter 463 of the laws of 2024. And Maryland is joining one of only a small group of states that actually have legislation targeted toward preventing theft of gift cards. And I think the other states are New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and now Maryland. And then there are other states that are considering similar legislation, but so far Maryland's part of a pretty small group. So this legislation, which goes into effect in 2025, will require warnings at brick and mortar stores in front of gift card displays, will institute training requirements for employees of brick and mortar stores, will require reporting of third-party gift card sellers, and will also require other steps that brick and mortar as well as online retailer sellers need to take, as well as gift card manufacturers. They will need to make their packaging more tamper resistant. So let me start with you, Delegate Stewart. What was your motivation for introducing this bill?
Sure. Thanks, Karen. And again, thank you for having us. Our motivation was that Senator Cramer and I both represent a large number of senior citizens. We probably have the highest percentage or one of the highest percentages of seniors of any legislative district in Maryland. And whether you're a senior or not, pretty much everyone either has experienced or knows someone who's experienced at least an attempted gift card fraud. I get these emails every once in a while purporting to be someone else and wanting me to purchase gift cards. I think I actually got one just the other day from someone purporting to be someone who works with me at my law firm and saying that they wanted my cell phone number and that they needed me to collect some gift cards for them. So this is an issue that I think folks encounter a lot. And so Senator Kramer and I had been putting our heads together for really the last couple of years, thinking of what solutions we could put on the table. And I think we started with what you mentioned, which is what other states have done. But as I'm sure we're going to get into, largely because of, I think, Senator Kramer's ingenuity, we actually went even further than just an omnibus bill of previously enacted state bills and went further with an even more comprehensive approach. But the impetus was really just hearing from regular people and our own personal experiences, which demonstrated how widespread this problem really is.
Yeah, I mean, according to the FTC, $217 million was stolen from people through the vector of gift cards in 2023, and that's like 10% of the $200 billion that people annually spend on gift cards. So that's completely unacceptable. So Senator Kramer, was your motivation exactly the same as Delegate Stewart's, or was there something else that maybe brought you to the table in terms of your approach to this legislation?
Well, I think Delegate Stewart and I share, as he mentioned, a concern for protecting the residents of the state of Maryland from being financially abused, taken advantage of, being scammed. And the issue of the gift cards is one of several that we have worked on. And he and I, as he indicated, began discussing how best we might be able to address the problem. And I appreciate that other states have sort of dipped their toes into the water. But as he mentioned, ours was an exceptionally comprehensive bill that I think covers, as you mentioned, Karen, three main areas to protect consumers. And one of those is the fact that scammers will use gift cards to try to convince people to pay debts. And the fact of the matter is, a gift card should be a gift. It should never be used to pay a debt. And the reason the scammers will try to use gift cards is that once they either are in receipt of the card physically, or they're given the numeric code information on the back of the card, the money's gone and there's no tracing it. So, there's this popular scam where a person will get a call and they're told that they did not pay taxes. They are behind on their utility bills. They need to immediately go buy gift cards, and somebody's going to be there to collect the gift cards, or they're going to jail. Their utilities will be turned off. And part of what we did in the bill is to make sure that if anyone either buys online a gift card or go to a brick and mortar store, there are going to be warning signs about gift card scams, that gift cards, again, are to be a gift, nothing else. And with that information also online, and a requirement that employees in the stores who handle the gift cards will be trained to look for individuals who are being exploited. The other big piece of it is, on that same front, the third party resellers of these cards, people who go, buy the cards from sellers. Very often they could be legitimate sellers. Somebody gets a gift card, it's $100. These, third party sellers will say, hey, we'll give you $50 for it. Right. And they get the card and then they resell it for $75. So somebody gets $100 gift card for $75 and the resellers made $25. But that's also been a significant source for the scammers to sell illegally gotten gift cards. So now there are going to be significant record keeping requirements for these third party resellers, and it's extremely stringent. what they're all the information they'll be required to now record and keep, and for law enforcement to have immediate access to. And then the third piece that was so important was the gift card draining. And that's where
The
the
packaging comes
scammers
in.
go into the stores, yank the gift cards off the shelf, because at that point they have not been activated, so there's no value. They take the cards out of the store, they record all the numeric information on the backs of the cards, and then return them to any store that sells gift cards, put them on the shelves. The moment somebody comes in, activates the card and puts money on it, the scammers have that information and suck the money right off and disappear with the cash. So that's what the bill, the three components of the bill, were directed at.
That's just, and it's, yeah, and it's excellent that those things are included in the bill, in the law, and now law. So let me ask you this, because both of you because this law is unique in that it was introduced and passed in one session. That hardly ever happens. So Delegate Stewart, let me start with you. What kinds, I mean, because the opposition was significant to this bill, and you would think that we could all get behind, let's prevent gift card fraud, but apparently we can't. So Delegate Stewart, what kind of headwinds did you run across in dealing with your colleagues in the House and just, advocates for or against whatever when with the House version of the bill?
Sure, and I think that there was the opposition and the support. I think was similar across the chambers, but there was definitely a chasm. There was a gap between what some of the industry advocates were saying and what our colleagues were saying. And I think that's evinced by the fact that, yes, this bill did receive significant industry opposition up until the final moments of the session. At the same time, the vote count was enormously, overwhelmingly supportive of the bill. And I think our colleagues that voted against it on the House side, I think mostly were motivated by whether or not there were going to be provisions to allow individuals to sue, to have what lawyers call a private right of action. That was a sticking point, I think, for some of the folks on the other side of the aisle, but they didn't have any objections to the core fundamental components of the bill, which Senator Kramer eloquently described. Now, what the industry folks were concerned about primarily, we actually had support from not only retailers who would be affected by the retail-related provisions in the bill, but we had overwhelming support even from the manufacturers who I think are affected by the bill for the first time, in the sense that no other state has attempted to regulate the manufacturing of gift cards until now. I think there are three major manufacturers of gift card in the country, and two of the three were with us. They didn't necessarily come enthusiastically to the table, but they ultimately realized that this was probably going to happen, that the time was now to finally make some changes on this. And really, the biggest opposition we have was from the third manufacturer, which hired lobbyists and really kind of carried out an all-out assault on the bill. And that was ultimately the trickiest thing to overcome. But like I said, your initial question about, well, this seems like everyone should get on board. I really do think that sentiment was broadly felt across the members of the General Assembly. It's just one affected industry group was trying to protect its profits and its bottom line and shareholders, and trying to kill the bill. And that was, I think, the biggest obstacle, the biggest headwind that we had to overcome.
And I just remember personally watching the General Assembly in the last minutes of the session. Has the conference met? Are they? Well, what happened? Was there a vote? I don't see anything. This is terrible. And so Senator Kramer, so there was this opposition from one, as that shall go unnamed, manufacturer or party who saw issues. So what happened what did you do? What did you and your colleagues on both sides of the aisle do to overcome that opposition? Because Maine had a similar issue and their legislation died because of industry opposition.
Well, what I failed to mention a moment ago is that to address that third piece of the bill, with the cards being pulled off the shelves and the numeric information captured and then put back on. So when there was money loaded onto the cards, they would be drained. Our bill requires the manufacturers now to secure and protect that information in the packaging so that it is not exposed, and that if their cards are pulled off the shelves and they are in fact tampered with, there has to be packaging that provides evidence that the packaging has been tampered with, and warnings on the packaging that if it has any appearance of having been tampered with, do not buy or sell at the store this card. And that was the big pushback. And the company that really came in opposition is a company called Incom. And Incom is one of the larger manufacturers.
Oh, we are naming them. Okay, good.
And Incom was buying up lobbyists to try to kill the bill. And quite frankly, Incom is a company that is being sued in multiple states, class action lawsuits, because in the allegations against Incom has been aware of the fact that these cards were being sold and drained because they were not protecting the numeric codes on the cards with their packaging. And the other manufacturers that Delegate Stewart mentioned, sort of, at the beginning, they came out in opposition to what Delegate Stewart and I were doing. But they came and sat down at the table with us, along with CEOs from Home Depot and Target and Lowe's and our Maryland Retailers Association. And finally has said, okay, look, we knew this day of reckoning was going to come, and now it's here. And they decided that they felt it was best to work with Delegate Stewart and I to draft a bill that was comprehensive and did what our goal was, but also made sense for how they could get there, how they could say, okay, we understand we're going to have to be retooling our factories to do different packaging to protect the codes. And the retailers stepped in and said, look, we also know we've got a role to play. And in certain circumstances, we are going to now have to secure these cards from the public so that only our employees have access to them, so they stop getting pulled off and drained. Unfortunately, Incom made the decision to try to kill the bill and or amend it to the point that it was meaningless.
I was going to say it would just not mean anything.
That it would be meaningless and ineffective. And that's where Delegate Stewart and I were working overtime right up to the very end to keep that from happening. And fortunately, at the end of the day, we were successful in fighting off Incom's efforts to thwart the goal of the legislation, and succeeded in getting it passed. And so even after the fact, we have now had several of the manufacturers step up and say, hey, we know that based on our, working with you, we have 12 months to implement the changes, but we are trying very hard to expedite that so that the packaging requirements will be met sooner. And we are working very hard. We know that it's coming. And they also, they fought because they don't want the first domino to fall. And if Maryland passes this kind of a legislation, becomes the first state, they know other states are going to start doing the same thing. So they fought it to a point. Then they realized, okay, Delegate Stewart and I were moving forward with the legislation. It was going to happen. Try to help make something that actually would make sense if other states then step up and say, hey, why is only Maryland protecting their constituents? we have an obligation here in our state to do the same. And here's a bill that can be a template for the other states. And so I think that's where we kind of ended up in getting it passed.
Yes, we just got a comment of effect for consumers. So thank both of you for standing up for gift card users. We wind down. Delegate Stewart, tell me, what overall impact do you have? Because Maryland's in a pretty exclusive club in terms of this type of legislation. So what do you hope to see protections for purchasers of gift cards that are only for gifts?
Yeah, well, obviously what we hope to see is a dramatic reduction in both attempted gift card fraud and successful or completed gift card fraud in Maryland. And that's what Senator Kramer and I are going to be looking after. That's what we're going to be monitoring, is we want to make sure that this bill, which was a huge achievement and which is really kind of a first in the nation bill in a lot of ways, we want to make sure it has the desired impact, and we want to make sure that that impact is big. And if that's not the case, if there's more work to be done, because obviously these scammers across lots of different areas beyond just gift cards can be a little bit like playing a game of whack-a-mole, where you think you got a corner and then they disappear and they find some other new venue to use to scam people and separate them from their hard-earned money or hard-earned retirement funds. So that's what we're going to be monitoring to make sure this works. Now, what I hope to see is retailers in broad compliance. I suspect they will be. I suspect we'll have better trained employees on this. I suspect that we'll have better located and better notices in stores.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably most importantly, as Senator Kramer has mentioned a few times, we're going to have better manufacturing. I would invite anyone who's concerned about this issue just to go into your local grocery store or gift card provider and look at the broad array, look at the broad range of security that the gift cards have. That's actually something that Senator Kramer and I did. We were on the phone with each other, just kind of going through the racks to see which companies seemingly put consumers first. There are a lot of companies, I think eBay was one, for example, that they were willing to pay a little bit more to have a tamper-proof card that was actually secure. But a lot of other companies clearly just kind of bought the manufacturer's cheapest product, and it provided no security. And so obviously what we're hoping is those racks in the future will have only secure cards because the manufacturers are complying with the law. But I think to go one step further, what we're really hoping, and we're getting some indications that this is the case, is that not only this Maryland law will create a domino effect and other states will follow suit, but also that manufacturers will just say, honestly, the economical move for us is just to move towards safer packaging in all 50 states. And we think that will happen. And I also think that's because the incomes of the world fought this so hard because they also think that will happen. They think this is not just a one, Maryland being a small state issue, that this is going to have to be a compliance issue that they're going to have to endeavor to complete across 50 states. And that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that with this one bill, we can not only affect Maryland consumers, but it would be awesome if we could reduce gift card fraud writ large across the country. But hey, if somehow the scammers figure out another way, we'll be back with another bill until we eradicate this problem.
They're very busy trying to figure out another way, but at least they've got a major speed. So Senator Kramer, can you, we've got like 1 minute left. Can you give me an idea of what you think the Office of Attorney General will do to help with this?
Yeah, actually, the Attorney General's office was very helpful with us working on the legislation during the session in support of the legislation. I think that Delegate Stewart is spot on, and the industry pretty much admitted it, that if they have to retool their manufacturing process to meet Maryland's law now, they will very likely be changing their packaging for all their gift cards wherever they are sold. So I think that Maryland will in fact have a big impact on the industry, but the Attorney General's office has made it very clear that they're prepared to enforce the new law. We made violation of the new law a violation of the Maryland Consumer Protection Act, which comes with some very significant and harsh penalties. So I have to believe that the industry and the retailers are going to do everything they can to be in compliance, because there's going to be a pretty significant stick to enforce the law if they fail to do so. And the goal here is not to have a gotcha to catch people in the retail business. We put in a provision that allows for the Attorney General, if they come in and see, Consumer Protection Division comes in and sees that they're not in compliance, they get a warning. You've got, here it is. We're not looking to hit you with the hammer out of the gate. Get into compliance, and that'll be it. If you fail to come into compliance, then there are significant.
Then there will be a hammer. And I know I, for one, don't even buy gift cards because I'm just so for family members. I'm like, I'm not giving them a gift card. I'll just give them the money in person. Maybe with this legislation, maybe I too one day can buy a gift card. Secure the knowledge when all hasn't gotten a hold of it first. So Senator Kramer, Delegate Stewart, thank you so much for joining, not only joining us here today, but your tireless efforts to get this legislation across the law of the land. I'm a proud Marylander just because, by 2025, I know gift cards will be just a little bit more safe to buy. So with that, we will conclude our interview, and please go to aarp.org/MD/Protect Week to find out about our other interviews, our free shred events, and other resources that will be available free of charge to anyone, whether you're an AARP member or not, during Protect Week. And make sure to observe World Elder Abuse Awareness Day on June 15th. Thank you and good day.